Does food really affect your mental focus? Yes, we are going to talk about what to eat, what not to eat, and when and how to eat for best mental focus. What foods are bad for mental focus? Are there any? There are. Things like synthetic foods, processed foods, foods that are really high in simple, non-complex sugars. None of these help with your cognitive focus or your ability to concentrate. Make sure that you are avoiding foods that we would consider to be non-whole. Make sure that the foods that you're eating are in fact whole foods. One of the greatest offenders of foods that are bad for your mental focus are simple sugars that often hide in fluids. Things like sodas, juices, alcohol, anything that will create a spike in insulin. That spike in insulin will make it very hard for you to focus and concentrate. The next question is, well, what foods are good for mental focus? Fats, really healthy fats, things like avocado as example. Proteins, things like beans, dairy, eggs, chicken, fish, all really good for you. And the third category, carbohydrates, also okay, but what you want to make sure is that the carbohydrate that you are eating are complex, non-simple sugars. So carbohydrates that aren't going to create that spike in insulin that will then dip and make you going running back to find more food. Now, I would be remiss when we talk about what foods to eat if I didn't include the fact that you should definitely not just be eating, but I want you to drink more water. The ideal circumstance is such that you're sipping water throughout your day so that you never really feel thirsty. By the time you feel thirsty, you're actually dehydrated at the cellular level, and by the time you're dehydrated at the cellular level, your brain has given up to 2 liters of water. There's no way you can be mentally focused or cognitively all there if you don't have enough water. So I don't just want you to eat, I want you to stay hydrated and drink enough water. Now, when it comes to what to eat in order to increase mental focus, one of our best friends is caffeine. A lot of people tell me that if they have caffeine, they feel like they're way too wired and that they can't focus. This means that you're consuming too much of it. What I would recommend in that case is something like green tea, which will allow a lowered level of caffeine. But what we know is that caffeine really does help with both mental clarity and your ability to focus. So don't be afraid of caffeine. While there is such a thing as too much, some will really help you. Here's the thing. There are definitely foods you want to avoid. There are foods that you can and certainly should eat, and water and caffeine, but I want to talk a little bit about how and when to eat, because what all the latest research is showing us is that how and when we eat is even more important than what we eat for mental focus, for cognitive clarity, for being more motivated, more productive, and being happier. First things first, there's definitely such a thing as too much food. If what you're doing is you're eating too much or you're eating too often, what happens is that you're getting this continual surge in insulin that is really bombarding not just your every cell in your body with having to introduce new glucose into it, but it's really confounding your ability to focus. What research has shown is that if what you do is you space out how often you eat so that you're not constantly bombarded with new insulin, new sugar, you'll actually increase over time your ability to focus and to concentrate. There's not just such a thing as too much, there's such a thing as too little. And so what I want you to be careful of is that you're eating kind of the right amount for you, whatever that looks like, that effectively you're not thinking about food. Manage your intake of food in such a way that you're able to produce and to be productive without really having to think about the fuel that you're intaking. That is likely the ideal for you. So you can in fact experiment with this because every body is different, every brain is different, and every physiological makeup is different. Eating slowly and conscientiously is really important. The idea here is that when you eat, you won't be snacking and you won't be trying to do something else, but that as you eat, you're being fully mindful of that. Further, physiologists and researchers have shown that if you eat slowly, you actually introduce a lot more of the nutrients that you are eating into your cells. Your body makes better use of the food that you put in your mouth. On top of really it mattering when you eat, I want to make sure that when you're eating, you aren't snacking, you aren't doing other things, you are conscientiously and slowly eating. Snacking is not ideal for you. Ultimately, you should be eating meals large enough that you don't have to snack between meals, such that if you are prone to snacking or if you've been snacking recently, what we've shown is that those people very typically find it harder to get into a state of mental focus and of concentration. So one of the key things to do, at least to try, is to quit snacking. Eat enough at your meals that you don't have to snack for many reasons, including the fact that constantly having to inject spikes in insulin as an example, inject new glucose into cells, and constantly thinking about food for your snack time is a very distracting thing to have to do. Thanks for watching today. Let us know in the comments below, what are the foods that you found are good for mental focus that have worked for you to allow you to focus better, to concentrate better? We'd love to hear from you. Make sure to subscribe and we'll see you tomorrow.